Hello, Hockey World. It is Tuesday, April 25th, 2023.
I'm Michael Agello, and I'm still not convinced.
I'm Russ Cohen. You're not convinced you're Michael Agello? I don't understand.
No, I'm convinced of that.
I'm convinced you're Michael Agello. So, I'm Kevin Allen. I know who I am.
And I'm Eklund, and I know what a misplaced modifier is. And you're watching HockeyBuzzcast at HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday, affiliated with the company's going to the Hockey World. And last night, my goodness, holy cow! This first round, this is a great first round of playoff hockey. Let's just say
first round is always great.
Yeah, but this one particularly. I mean,
I think there's.
We have a lot of.
I'll be the skunk
series already.
I'll be the skunk at the garden party, and then let everybody jump on me. Of the 8 series, I think there are 5 really good ones, and 3, I think that's par for the course. I don't think that every series is just unbelievable. I think there's
the only bad series is Carolina Isles. Otherwise, I think they're all great. I disagree.
Yeah. I mean, and Carolina Islanders has had an overtime game already, and the Islanders came back with 3 goals, and it's had its moments too. Like,
yeah, it's had a couple moments, but it doesn't live up to the others. It's just.
I mean, it has a slow start, but it tends to have fantastic endings in those games. Like they've been, like for the most part. I mean, it's definitely a filling out process, but I don't know. I always think it's great. I always think the first round is great, of course. But
here's my case because, and I have to say, like Game 3 of Winnipeg Vegas, Kev, I thought was compelling because they were up 4-1, and then they blew the 3-goal lead, and then Vegas wins on a mistake in double overtime. But the rest of the series, I've watched every game because I'm an addict, but I don't think it's particularly compelling. And now with the injuries, with Scheifele out, with Morrissey out, it's going forward. It's lost.
Yeah, I mean, and the Panthers-Bruins series would have been better if it wasn't 3-1. I mean, because there have been moments. I mean, the Allmark versus Kachuk, and it's been interesting. All the way through. I thought it was interesting. I was watching. Someone was talking about all the road teams winning, and the guy said, he goes, "When's the last time that happened?" And the other guy said, 2 years ago.
Yeah,
they're exactly like on the same pace as they were 2 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, it's true. I mean, this early, the first round is just always more compelling than everything else. Like to me, it just is. Like everything else, when you get to the next round, it's. I think it's part of it is that stigma of if you don't win a round in the playoffs, you're not having a successful year. So there's a lot of pressure on that. If you win a round, it's like okay, you won a round. If you lose in the second round, like Carolina is actually at that point where the Carolina is saying we don't have to win it. We have to win 2 rounds because they've been losing in the second round a lot, right?
Yeah, but
most teams aren't there.
But Carolina, Kev, I mean, not to say they're going to lose to the Islanders because I don't think they're going to lose to the Islanders. Obviously, they're the better of the 2 teams, and they were the better going in. But the fact that they lost Teravainen on top of without Reddy and Svechnikov, and that they're still winning, I mean, I think it's more of a statement of how good they are than how bad the Islanders are.
Yeah, but doesn't it seem like every team has lost somebody really important? Yeah. Like you look around and Scheifele and McCann and all these
just walked away from his team because of things going on in Russia. That's an important.
Ekblad is gone, right now. I mean, obviously Bergeron.
Bergeron and Krejci with the Bruins.
Right.
Ekblad with Florida.
Cernak
with Tampa, and Hedman and Point are limited. And Russ will laugh at this, but Matt Murray with Toronto, because I think if at certain points in the series,
but you can't play Matt Murray.
All right, fine. Just shush. Okay, I know you're anti Matt Murray.
Well, it's nothing to do with it. If you're happy with Samsonov, like the team's happy with Samsonov, you can't play the Matt Murray card too. You can't play both cards.
I'm just saying he would have been a viable option, Russ. But anyway, so moving on. And Carolina with the players that we've mentioned. I mean, the Islanders. Somebody's missing for the Islanders, aren't they? Or are they?
No, I think they're actually healthy now, and actually, Rangers are healthy.
Rangers are healthy. Devils are healthy.
Devils
Yeah.
are healthy. So there's a few teams that are healthy.
A few teams, yeah. But okay, so Vegas, I mean, the only chink in the armor in that series, and we'll get to Toronto, Tampa in a second, but Vegas, I looked at Brassois as the goalie and thought that was going to be the chink in their armor. And, you know, he wasn't particularly strong in game 3, but he was pretty good in game 4. So they seem to be surviving without a big goaltender, at least this round. I don't know whether they're going to be able to get past the winner of Edmonton, LA, Kev, without somebody like Quick or Logan Thompson stepping up. Because I don't know how good Brassois is.
Yeah. This first round really hasn't been a goaltender.
No.
First round.
No,
So,
it really hasn't. That's a great point. It really.
yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, it's been kind of wild games like Leeds, you know, being lost. And, you know, maybe it's something in the air because, you know, we talk about how the NBA never has upsides, but they got an 8-1 series now that's.
Yeah, but the 8's the Lakers, which is.
No, I mean, I get it, but, you know, I mean, it's just odd for them to have that too.
I mean, it should be flip-flop. Memphis should be the 8 and the Lakers should be the 1, but, you
right.
know. But Ross, let's talk about Devils Rangers because, I mean, I
got Devils fans who were sending me last night texts. Mike hates the Devils. Mike's all against them.
Okay.
Oh, listen, Ranger fans are pissed off, man. I'm getting a lot of things about that.
I don't hate the Devils.
I just throw it out there just for a second. I know you asked Russ the question, Mike, but I'm just going to say that after that I wrote in my blog after game 2 of the series, I said I think the Devils could very easily win the next 2 in New York.
Well, but let me just. I don't hate the Devils. I think they have a ton of talent. I just think the Rangers are deeper, more talented, more experienced, have the better goaltender.
Yeah, I mean,
the Devils are bad.
I mean that, you know, and I started saying this like 3 or 4 years ago, but it remains true this year. Like everything we've learned about hockey, such as that you need playoff experience in order to be successful. You got to have gone through and lost a few games before you can learn how to win. Like none of that seems to matter anymore. You know what I mean? Like, you know, all that stuff. Playing well at the end of the season or playing poorly at the end of the season doesn't seem to matter.
I'll tell you what. One thing I think.
One
thing I think that matters in these playoffs are the best teams are the best penalty killers. Carolina's 91.6, Boston 90.191, Seattle 90. Winnipeg's at 85, but they got other problems. The Rangers are at 84, Colorado's at 81, the Devils are at 77. They're the one just under the league average in the playoffs. But the penalty kill on these teams is extraordinary. Like when you have a league average of like 78 and you got teams performing at 90, it doesn't matter. Like, you know, you could have the best power play. Yeah. That penalty kill is going to eat into their percentage. And teams have gotten very, very good at it because skaters are so much better and just basically lateral movement of players is a lot better. So I think it's improved a lot. As far as the Devils, go ahead, sorry.
No, I think you're right. And I mean, and we're seeing that like clearly, like, you know, because what happens in series where, you know, even if the reffing is like trying to keep it relatively close or whatever, even if that's not technically what they're doing, but, you know, who knows? But, you know, even if that's happening, it does, like, if you keep the Florida Panthers, Boston Bruins penalties close, it's not going to help the Florida Panthers. Right. It's gonna, you know, you're going to be in a spot where, you know, every time, because the Bruins power play is so great that every time the Panthers power play is really
and there's another caveat to that. For the last 2 years, for all the draft eligible guys that I interview, all of their coaches are telling them to try and score on the penalty kill. They're not saying don't play good defense, but what they are saying is if there's a chance, you go try and score. That's changed too. A lot more scoring opportunities on the
and that comes from all the shot blocking that's going on too, because everybody blocks so many shots. So the coaches are now saying, let's turn those blocked shots into scoring chances, because we see it happen all the time. The guy blocks the shot, the puck kind of drifts by him, and the guy's, you know, off to the races. So
we're also going back to the era, like if you remember Edmonton in the early and mid '80s, were putting out Gretzky as a penalty killer because he was such a threat going the other way, and I think he scored like 8 or 9 shorthanded goals the one year. And you know the best defense is a good offense. I mean, the Leafs are using Mitch Marner on the penalty kill.
Yeah, well, someone talked to me about this recently, and now I can't remember who it was, but he pointed out, and this is really fascinating to me. You know, in the old days, you always wanted the good shot blockers out on the penalty kill, and there weren't that many on your team because guys didn't block a lot of shots. Now, like the guy said on our team, everybody has to block shots, so they all can. So, you know, even the top players now are good shot blockers, so now they're getting the PK, time as well. And just as you guys pointed out, I mean, when you've got great players on a penalty kill, they can score. So,
So here's what I'll point out about Rangers Devils. First, on the Devils side, they are looking for and finding more opportunities for Hughes to find open ice. And I'm guessing when he gets into a one-on-one situation that he's scoring around 85% or higher. That's what it seems like to me. I don't have a number on that, but that's what
he's money.
So he's pretty much money. The other thing is when they're playing their 1-2-2, I don't think the Rangers are attacking that the right way. And this is where I kind of get on Gallant. There were some times where a guy like Panarin definitely could break it, could definitely get into the corner, but then like other Rangers weren't set up right, or they were looking for Kane too much, whatever, and they didn't get enough chances. And they're not giving enough chances to Adam Fox to just say, here's the puck, go figure it out. Because he will. He will break down a 1-2-2 all by himself if you give him the chance. And I think they need to do more of that. They also, again, I'm going to say it for the millionth time, Patrick Kane got over 18 minutes last night. You need to limit him 5-on-5 because when it switches to New Jersey, again, if they want to match up the Hughes line against the Kane line, there's going to be 2-on-1s to be had. He needs to play about 14 minutes or less of 5-on-5 time.
Yeah, but Russ, don't you think that was a product of them being down 2-1 and trying to tie the game?
He was chasing the game the whole game. He was slow the entire game. Now, again, we know he's got a problem. He had a good 3-point game, but he can't bring the same effort every game. So why am I continually throwing him out there for these mega minutes like Gallant is doing?
To me, the Devils are what the Devils are doing and what they did during the regular season to the Rangers, which was they went 3-1 against the Rangers regular season. I watched some of those games before the playoffs, and they're playing this. They got back to north-south passing. That concept of instead of east-west passing, which is which really doesn't do them any good. But their speed, north-south is their speed can kill the Rangers. I mean, they are faster than the Rangers, and you see it clearly at times in these games. Like there are moments when the Rangers can't catch up to them, and when they're playing fast, the Devils and the Panthers are two teams when they're playing fast, they're like really hard to stop. But you can see it clear as day.
The only counter that I have is if Panarin cashes in on maybe 2 goals that he hasn't, because he's been horrible. It's a different series. Like it really is, because he's had his opportunities. If he starts cashing, this is a good series again. It's not like the Rangers are going to go into New Jersey and get swept.
There you go. That's true. Well, here we have Dan Wallace, who we were joined by. I wanted to bring Dan in. Hey, Dan, how you doing?
Good, Eck. How are you?
Very, very good. Thank you for coming on. Dan is our Minnesota writer, of course, and out in Minnesota, and was in the last Wild game. And I wanted to get his thoughts on this series. I mean, this is a really good series.
Physical,
tough. These are two. This feels like a 2-3 matchup all the way. Like some of them haven't felt like 2-3 matchups to me as much as this does, but this one does. Like this is, and I think a lot of people didn't give Minnesota the credit that they deserve to go into the series either. So, what are your thoughts on this one, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, this absolutely, you hit on the nail on the head. This is a playoff series. I mean, there's animosity on both sides.
Right.
Coaches going at it, fans going at it, gamesmanship, games within the games. It's had a little bit of everything to this point. And I mean, nobody ever thought that this was going to be a short series by any stretch of the imagination. But this Wild team is built differently than Wild teams of the past. I mean, there was a lot of excitement last year when the Wild, kind of went on a run toward the end of the season and got home ice advantage and bowed out pretty quickly. They did have a 2-1 lead, just like they had this year. But the difference is that last year, I think there was still a growing process. And I mean, it's always that kind of process in the playoffs anyway, but this team is built to go deep. I mean, I'm not saying that they're definitely going to win this series, but they are better equipped to compete with the Dallas Stars. And I think that you saw in the last 2 games, 5-on-5, they were the better team on the ice. I don't say that they deserve to win the last game, because if you can't kill penalties, regardless of whether they're suspect calls or not, it's going to happen in every game. There's always going to be calls like that. So,
well, Dan, let me ask you, because there was some criticism after the game one where Gustafson was unbelievable and got they've won in overtime mostly because of him standing on his head, and then they go to Fleury, and Fleury is terrible in game two. They've stuck with Gustafson game 3 and 4. Is that done now? Are they just going to stick with Gustafson, or do you think they're going to go back to Fleury at some point?
That is the never-ending Bernie question. Everyone in Minnesota was like, "Are you kidding me? He did this. He went to Fleury," and and the whole game I'm going, I don't even need to watch the post-game presser, but I'm like, I know exactly what's going to happen. Russo's going to ask the first question, why did you start Fleury? And the response is going to be, that's what we did all year. And, it just, it's like, man, I could have written this press conference before it ever started. But the point is that for me, if it's going to be, this is a new season. It's not what we did all year. Once the playoffs start, you can't do that. You've got to ride the hot hand. So I don't see him playing Fleury tonight. But,
I don't either. But I will tell you this, and this is what I said just a couple of minutes ago in serious. I think Minnesota's done a nice job of dragging Dallas into playing their game.
Yeah.
And then look, Dallas is missing Pavelski, but we've talked about it. All teams are missing. But
that might change because Pavelski's skating today, and they think that there's a possibility he plays. Now, I think the Pavelski injury, Kev, I think that really affected Dallas, because you had that unit with Pavelski, Hintz, and Robertson that was probably the best or second best line in the league. And once Dumba knocks Pavelski out, then you got all the lines in a blender, and then it's tough.
Yeah, and Pavelski's a playoff guy, and they lean to him. Everybody knows that he rises in the postseason, and you almost, you try not to, put it all on one guy, but you do it subconsciously, and I think it had a psychological impact on him, in this series. But it is interesting. I remember Dan was talking about the goaltending. I went and watched the Everson talk before, and what he said was, because I always paid close attention to what coaches say, because generally they actually sort of either give you a hint or tell you directly. And he basically said, look, my plan is to play both goalies right now, but that doesn't mean I won't go to one guy. So I think he's I don't think he'll switch now. I think Fleury had his shot and he didn't perform. So I think it's Gustafson from here on in.
Yeah.
What is it about Fleury? Like, this is the thing. Remember, Kevin, and you remember we talked about this. That Fleury, part of the reason Fleury was taken out of Pittsburgh was because he is so likable that people want to give him a chance.
Oh, yeah. Well, he's so popular with teammates.
Popular with his teammates, and I think that, there's just something about him that, like, he's just, people like, and I feel the same way about him. I'm like, I'm pulling for him. I'm like, they're going with Fleury. Cool, great. But then, of course, what happens. But you want the guy to succeed so much, right?
Yeah, and, the thing about him, too, like, has greatness in his on his resume, but he's also had some down periods, too. Yeah. He went 2 or 3 playoff years in a row where he couldn't stop a beach ball.
Ilya Brizgalov.
Do you remember the Flyers Penguin series? My gosh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's had struggles, and now as he's getting older, you always run into that circumstance where you don't know, like, is this the end, or is this Fleury being Fleury? Where he just is going to have bad games. So I don't know. I think the safer play here is just go with Gustafson, who seems to be having a great season and doesn't have any inconsistency.
I mean, Dan, this was not the blueprint. The blueprint was Fleury with Gustafson, who they got in the Talbot deal, is Gustafson as the backup, and they that being the sort of the stopgap until Wallstedt's ready in a year or two. And Gustafson, the way he's played this year, he's been better than Fleury during the regular season, and he's been better than Fleury in the playoffs.
Absolutely. And you're exactly right. The funny thing is that if you hear after every game that Gustafson plays, and the interviewer will ask, how do you guys feel about, Gustafson? And to a man, every single one of them says he's very calm. He's very even keeled back there. And Fleury is the exact opposite of that. So, and that calmness actually feeds into the Wild structure because, as Russ was saying, the Wild have pulled Dallas into their game, and that's what they want you to do. They want you to play their game. When this game gets to be a run and gun game, it's not going to favor the Wild, and so they want you to play that way. And it starts in the net. That's how they feed on that. So yeah, that's a good point.
I think I'm such a big proponent on certain goalies are better with certain teams, Dan. I've always said that. It's like I really do think that there's like goalie versus like the team in front of them that they play better. And Fleury, the one thing I had with Fleury going to Minnesota the whole time is this is a defensive minded team, and Fleury has thrived. In Pittsburgh at times when they were offensive. Vegas was definitely an offensive minded team. It's like Fleury thrives on lots of shots, right? So if you're getting less shots, then Fleury tends to overplay the puck, and he plays over. He slides further than he should, or he moves this, and that's the craziness you're talking about.
We also have to remember, Pittsburgh drafted him in the second round for a reason. He was a star in the World Juniors.
Sure. That
year, they knew they needed goaltending. They drafted two really good goalies. He ends up going to Ottawa. Ottawa's defense stinks, so then he doesn't look that good. Guerin goes to Minnesota. He knows Gustafson from Pittsburgh, and he gets him. And it was smart. Right. He's only 24. Again, in this league, it's pretty much proven now that you're going to want to have two goalies. Most teams are going to want to have that. So now it takes the heat off of Wallstead, and it doesn't do anything to their structure. And Fleury won't be there next year, most likely.
No. Well, no, he's got a 2-year deal.
He's got another year. He's got another year.
Okay. Yeah. So it'll be a split one more year then.
Yeah. Now, let's switch. We'll come back to this series, but I wanted to talk about Seattle, Colorado, because not only was it stunning that Seattle wins in overtime, but I didn't know until this morning about the incident with McCann and with Makar, Kev. And I watched it, and I didn't think it was as bad as everybody was saying. But they're saying Makar is going to get suspended for a game or two, and that's big for Colorado.
Well, it was late.
Yeah.
The 1001, 1002, or 1 hippopotamus, 2 hippopotamus, under that guideline, he's late. And you gotta call that. You gotta be on top of that. We can't have late hits. And I did it. I looked at that, and it doesn't seem that bad, but when you count it out, he's late to the party, and like that, he's got
to the hippopotamus, Kevin.
Yes, he's got to be punished for that.
The thing was, Kev, it looked like he took an initial shot at him, and he didn't really hit it the way he wanted. So then he really wound up
and then got him again. Yeah, no, you're right, Russ. You're absolutely right. Like that. That's why I think he's going to pay.
He's going to get a game.
But again, and I had an issue with this with the previous suspension with Bunting. They're penalizing the result, not the infraction, because they penalized Bunting, and they came out after the suspension is that the league contacted Tampa to find out how seriously Cernak was hurt, and that was a factor in how long Bunting was getting suspended. No, it should be
that is always the case, though, Mike.
I know it, but I agree, Kev. That's always the case. It shouldn't be.
No, that's how the criminal law is done.
Yeah, exactly.
Like if you go and punch Russ in the jaw, and Russ falls down, but he's okay, you will not be punished as much as if you go and you break that jaw.
He'll be punished by me because I'll take one shot.
Russ was a boxer, remember, so you don't want to punch.
No, I'll just take one shot. After that,
it'll be one shot to a particular area, and then I'm going to be in a fetal position.
But you're right. And Kevin's right. And the point is, like, what isn't that obvious? Isn't that like morally, ethically right too? Like in a way, you can make the argument both directions. You can say, it shouldn't matter if he gets hurt because he goes awkwardly. But Cernak's out, so why should Bunting be in? It's like that's like there's something to be said about that argument.
Yeah, well, you can't go there because we'll be swapping medical reports.
And Todd should have been suspended for the rest of his life because of Steve Moore.
Yeah.
Well,
That was a different era.
some people think he should have been.
Well,
There's
yeah, but that's why you can't go there. But
yeah.
Because but you can certainly, and they do. I mean, they've been very clear about it ever since they started telling you, what they looked at, that they always call and check on the severity of the injury.
Yeah.
Now I'm still I'm really stunned that Seattle is tied 2-2. And Russ, I look at this and it's like, okay, I know Landeskog made a difference, and I know that they're without Kadri this year and they're not as strong up the middle. But I still thought Colorado was going to easily handle Seattle, and Seattle's playing really well.
Yeah, but you now have to factor out Nichushkin, who didn't play last night, and he's a massive guy for them. I watched him on the power play, and they just didn't have that same look to him.
Right.
And like I pointed out, Seattle's got the second best kill, which is a Dave Haxtell thing. So put those two things together, and Colorado's starting to struggle a little for goals. So I still think they could win the series, but now now they're a little more mortal. So we'll see. But I still be surprised if Seattle wins.
Yeah, and the one thing that's sort of lost, I mean, I know this panel knows that, but I think the fan base is that when you have quilted teams or patchwork teams like expansion teams, they're generally journeyman players.
Right.
But these Seattle players are not journeyman players. Like, they've had considerable amount of postseason experience.
Yeah.
So this patchwork team is more than just patchwork. It's a collection of good players that have ended up on one squad.
The fact that they're getting Grubauer to play like he's playing is what surprised me.
I'm with you on that, Act. Like, I don't even get that because I don't think he's a good goaltender.
No, that's where I thought the series was.
I don't anymore.
Colorado's going with the best offenses. McKinnon's going to eat him alive.
Yeah. I mean, Seattle doesn't give up many shots, but their goaltending doesn't stop many shots either.
That's true. Maybe Martin Jones looked good for half a season.
Save percentage under 900. That's
crazy.
That's usually not a team to play.
Yeah, you got to rephrase that. Though, he made Jones look tolerable.
Right, which is tough.
Yeah,
I remember watching the NHL Network and halfway through the season, them saying Martin Jones has won the number one spot. And when I heard that mentioned, I'm like, holy, what the heck?
Yeah.
I mean, he was probably the worst goalie in Philadelphia for like the last 15 years. Like,
that's saying a lot.
And
that is saying a
lot. There's another. The game last night, another example of when they're 5-on-5, Seattle, Minnesota, Florida, these five, when they're 5-on-5, they're tough. Like, they're really, you have, and New Jersey too, actually, the Devils the same way. Like, 5-on-5, those teams are really, really good. And Seattle dominated the game last night. And I was wondering how exciting it was going to be too. And I thought it was a really exciting game. But my wife's out there on a conference right now in Seattle, and she went with a bunch of her employees. They're all out there at team building things. So I went to a bar afterwards, and she said she was shocked. She says she's been to Philly bars. She said, I've never seen so many uniforms, so many people. She's like, that bar was just packed with Seattle people.
Well,
I'm not shocked. Yeah, I'm not shocked.
Yeah, and I'm not shocked because look at the reaction with the Seattle soccer team in the MLS. Look at what they do for the Seahawks. That's unlike Atlanta, which is a terrible sports town. Seattle is a great sports town.
Right.
Yeah, but she said they are into it. Like, they were supposed to have a late meeting, and some of the people bailed and said we can't meet after 6 because we're going to the game. Like, it was just like that kind of thing. So the meeting had been scheduled for like 6 months. So fortunately she's like, you're lucky I'm a wife of a hockey guy and I understand this. But she's fine. But this was tough. She had this meeting set up and they couldn't go. But yeah, I think that I've been impressed with that series. I think more than anything else, Seattle is. And also, I have to admit that I didn't see Haxtell being able to do this either. Like, there's two parts of that thing that I did not see coming. Like, Haxtell having covered him here, I don't know.
Well, like Ian says, they suppress a lot of shots and they block 26 of them, so they know that they don't have the best goaltending, and they're willing to sort of defend that. And it's up to Colorado to be able to beat that. And I think they will in the end. But I think this has slowed them down considerably.
Right.
Jaden Schwartz was such a big pickup for them.
Oh yeah.
Like like he's one of those guys that the Blues really miss. The Blues really miss him, and they really added.
But to Kevin's point, that not too many expansion teams, add guys like Burakovsky, and they have big guys like Oleksiak and Larson on the blue line. I mean, you can make up for average goaltending with their line, and Yanni Gord, who's won a Stanley Cup. You can make up a lineup. There's Stanley Cup winners, Stanley Cup finalists on that team, and normally expansion teams don't have those guys. So I guess that's just the reality. I still think Colorado is going to win, but depending on how long Makar's suspension is and how long McCann is out, because we don't know how long he's going to be out injured, and those are going to be big factors.
Right.
Yeah, that's a great point by Mike too, because not only did they add those guys in the draft, but somehow Ron Francis, who's an incredibly nice popular guy around the league, has been able to convince players to come there. Burakovsky, and getting Adam Larson. Like, we had just, we weren't that deep into the celebration of shutdown defensemen, and suddenly he ends up with Adam Larson, who's,
Right.
he's one of the better shutdown guys in the league, and
Right.
He can hit, he can block shots, but he never worries about offense, and that's what they needed. So
Yeah, that's exactly what they needed.
Now, we need your lollipops and rainbows analysis. I've been waiting with bated breath of Game 4, Tampa Toronto, and I'll let you spew, and then I'll give the reality.
What did I say after Game 1, Mike? I said Leafs in 5.
I know.
And everybody laughed at me.
I'm on the rainbow trip too. So
I am telling you, the Leafs are just way better than Tampa. And if the Leafs can get out of their own way, they win the series. It's all mental. It's mental when you look at Sheldon Keefe on the bench. Sheldon Keefe on the bench his face is the face of the Maple Leafs right now. Like, when they go to him, he looks lost, and he looks.
Who's this?
Sheldon Keefe on the bench.
It's Paul Woods of the Red Wings broadcaster, who I sat and have dinner with before a Red Wing game, said it best at the end of the season. He said Tampa Bay Lightning still have exceptional players, but they can only play 40 minutes now instead of 60.
Yeah.
They don't have the ability to go the distance. He told me 2/3 of the way of the season, he watched them all the time. That's his favorite team to watch, I think, because he always watched every game. He said they've lost it. They're not going to get it back. He said Vasilevsky is just not quite as sharp. The defense isn't nearly as strong. And he says, they're going to look like the Lightning for periods of time because they know how to win, but they don't have it. And that's what I saw. Like, they played well. They looked like they were the better team. But when you give up 3 goals in the third, and you can't hold the lead when you're a championship caliber team. You've been to the finals 3 years in a row, and you can't hold the 3-goal lead. Something's wrong. Yeah, and they knew it was wrong, and something was wrong, and that's why they tried to make changes. So
I'm an expert at watching a team give up a 3-goal lead.
Not that you're not an expert on the Tampa Bay Lightning.
No. And that was the thing I was going to say, Kev, that was a complete and utter departure from what we normally see from Tampa. And this is the thing. If you look at this series objectively, Tampa Bay has been the better team in 3 of the 4 games, but they've lost 2 of those games.
I don't see that at all, Mike.
Oh my God, they were the better team
in any way, shape, or form.
Let me
completely subjective.
Let me finish. They were the better team in Game 3. They dominated the third period until O'Reilly and Matthews got out of the penalty box, and then the Leafs tied it with a minute left to go in regulation, and Tampa dominated the overtime. They couldn't beat Samsonov, and then the Leafs got the goal from Riley. Yesterday, the Leafs were terrible for 50 minutes, and then Tampa either ran out of gas or decided that they were going to take the foot off the pedal, and the Leafs got a goal from Matthews and then scored 3 goals in 6 minutes and 1 in overtime. They have been the Tampa Bay. I agree everything with what Kevin said in terms of maybe they're gassed. They played 71 or 72 playoff games extra, so that's winning 2 Stanley Cups and going to a 3rd cup final, and maybe that's taking a toll on that group. And Hedman is not 100%. Cernak is out, and Point is injured. But they're a snake. I'm sorry. If you're going back to Toronto and you're up 3-1, you still got to be scared of that Tampa team. You do.
Well, I mean, you got to respect them because of what they've done. But you're just being a fan. I mean, you just can't allow yourself to think that they're going to win this.
Well,
but
I'm basing this on history, Kev. I'm basing
no. I mean, but the history, and I have great respect for that team.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not the same team anymore. The defense is not the same. They've lost their depth. It's eroded over time. I mean, and they haven't really played a full game. I mean, what the hallmark of that team and getting to those finals is they played very consistent games.
Yeah,
they can't do that anymore, and it's really evident that they can't. And I think because of that, the Maple Leafs have been a really strong team all season. So
I'll tell you what I think the change will be in this next game. Yeah. I think they're going to play it really close to the vest, like it's a 0-0 game the whole time.
That's what they try to do when they're in that situation. You're
right. And I think that's what they're going to do. They're going to.
That's fair.
Because they're going to say.
Series won 1-0 and 2-0 in the
okay, and what they're going to try to do, Russ, and I think you're right, is they're going to try to play on the Leafs' nerves because they know that if they win a close game in Game 5, what's going to be in the heads of the Leafs? Oh my God, we were up 3-1 on Montreal and we blew it, and we were up 3-2 against Tampa last year and blew it. That's their only card left to play right now. But
that last game, like you said, Mike, they didn't get close to emptying the tank. They didn't.
No.
Game, though, they'll empty the tank on this next game because they know how to do that. And that's what the Leafs are going to have to overcome. Because like Mike said, this is it's all their form. But if they don't win this next game, it could get rocky again for the Leafs. It could.
Yeah, I just don't think they have the personnel to play that style anymore. I mean, losing McDonough, is kind of a linchpin of doing that. So,
they're going to play more physical. Like Perbix has done a good job playing physical. Nobody can play defense like McDonough, but even McDonough can't play defense like McDonough anymore.
The interesting thing is, okay, look at the two big players that they lost. They lost Palat, who was always a great performer,
two-way guy,
and they lost McDonough because of salary cap. And at the deadline,
he was pretty good because he could fill in the gaps too.
Right at the deadline, after making the deal for Jeannot, they were trying to get a defenseman. The rumor out there, they were trying to get Radko Gudas from Florida because Florida was empty, was trading off people at that point. And had they gotten Gudas or had they gotten a comparable defenseman, they wouldn't be playing Darren Radish, and their defense would be a little bit deeper. Maybe what's happening now it wouldn't be happening. But that ifs and buts and candies or nuts, that whole thing. But so I mean, I think this series is not over. I think Toronto has been opportunistic, and they have never won these types of games. I tweeted it out before yesterday. They were 1-11 in opportunities to go up 3-1 or deciding games. So now they're 2-11. Okay, so now you got to be 3-11, and if you're not 3-11, then all of a sudden you're risking going down that.
No, that was this season, or.
No.
I was just making a point, Mike. That was not the season. These players aren't all the same players, but I'm sure the Lightning are looking at this and saying, "Look, we've already got in a Jello's head. Maybe we can get in the Toronto." No, but I mean, I don't want to disrespect the Tampa Bay Lightning because a lot of the points you're making are very valid. They know all. They have the equivalent of a PhD in winning in playoff hockey. They know how to do it. My only point is that they no longer have the personnel. The team's not the same. No. And I think they knew that. I think they've tried a Hail Mary a little bit by you pointed out, and I think you were right on the beam on this, that they tried to maybe we can get more physical and maybe we can take them on that way. They were looking for ways because they felt like they couldn't do it the same way they've done it in the past. And I think if this were any other series and you were looking at it objectively, you'd say that Toronto was in the driver's seat. But it's the Maple Leafs. You cover them, so you can't remove yourself. That's, But like if this were New Jersey and New York and it was similar circumstances, I think you would say you'd be far more comfortable than you are.
It's over. Dan, what were you saying about?
No,
history is always a factor with this team, and like my mantra for the first round is until I see them do it, I'm not going to believe it. And I'm going up to cover the game on Thursday in Toronto. I'm sure like every member of Leafs Nation will be hoping that Maple Leaf Square is out of hand and that they win. But it's been 19 years, and I know this, but this core 5 group, Tavares, Marner, Matthews, Nylander, and Riley were 1-11 going into that game, and now, like I said, they're 2-11. So if they're 3-11, then we have something to talk about.
But the 11 games were primarily played in their youthfulness, as they were learning how to win. Like they weren't
right.
Tavares is a different story, but. But those other guys were, they're trying to figure it out. So I think you got to discount that for that reason.
Sorry, Dan. Let Dan go. I want to hear Dan.
I was going to say Tampa lost 4 straight the year before they won. So somebody, you have to go through a learning curve to get there, and Toronto's in a far better position, and Tampa. The mystique is gone. That's what it is. They don't have the it factor that won them Stanley Cups and got them to last year's Stanley Cup. Yeah. That is gone.
Kevin, you mentioned what Derek Lalonde said on Hockey Night in Canada before we went live about sort of letting things out of the bag when it came to Vasilevsky, and how surprising that was.
Yeah, it really is surprising. Like, I think it's sort of I'll explain it. But basically, Derek Lalonde has done a tremendous job as an analyst. In fact, they would love to keep him as an analyst, but he's going over to the World Championship, so I think he's just doing one round. But he basically admitted that the Lightning, when he was an assistant coach there, did a study on their goaltending and realized that he has a hard time tracking pucks from the point. And so to combat that, they totally changed their defense. And they played a completely different style to kind of offset that. And I just got to believe that the Tampa Bay Lightning are not thrilled by that revelation, because I don't know that they would even tell. Would they even tell their goalie, "Yeah, we're studying you because we think you're, you're leaking from the point." So, even Lalonde's own general manager, who has cornered the market on secrecy, and doesn't say anything to anyone. He puts Lou Lamoriello to shame in terms of keeping it all in house. So I can't imagine he's thrilled with his coach, talking like that as well. So I'm surprised at that. And you know why Lalonde's like that? He's a nice guy and he's honest. People ask him a question, he answers it.
He's not angry, you don't think, about anything that happened there?
No. Why?
No.
I don't know. It seems like something, listen, I like John Cooper. He's great, right? But the reality is, I thought, and this is the last thing, move on from the series. But the last thing I thought John Cooper jumped the shark in the series in Game 1 when he was interviewed on the bench and had that attitude, we just showed, after they won the game or whatever, or maybe it was after, not the bench, but it was after the game, right? He said, we just showed up here, it was just a business trip for us. We're not.
No, that was during the game. That's his shtick.
It does not to that level.
Yes,
no, to me, it felt a little contrived. Like, I want to believe that completely, but I don't know if I can. And I felt like, if you do that to any other team and you put that, you just play that on repeat in your locker room, like that, it was such, I don't know, it was really kind of out there, I thought. I thought it was like, geez, you really are giving the Maple Leafs no credit whatsoever here and acting like you're the greatest thing since sliced bread, which is not really, his MO.
Yeah, but if the Leafs didn't come back in this game, you wouldn't be saying a word about it. That's his normal shtick.
That is normal. But the other element of all this is that John Cooper and Jeff Blashill and Lalonde are like the Three Amigos. They're friends. They have an annual golf tournament with each other. They're, when the Lightning came to town, Cooper was down in the Red Wings office. They're really close friends. So I don't know. All of it seems strange, but Lalone is a very nice guy. He is very honest. I mean, he on multiple occasions this season, I'm sure he said some stuff to the media that Yzerman said to him, "What possibly are you thinking?"
We have one more major issue that we have to talk about.
You got to remember, as an assistant coach, he doesn't have a lot of expertise and a lot of practice talking to the media, and sometimes you could let things slip. And as you know, you're on a podcast, you're on a broadcast, and you say something, and then you realize there's no going back from what you said, and that just happens sometimes.
Yeah, let's talk about that with you yesterday, Mike, because I want to get into this next thing, because the thing we have to talk about tonight is the fact that Edmonton is dumb enough to be playing.
Negatory.
Right, this to me is the most ridiculous move that they could possibly make.
I agree.
And this is, I've been saying the whole series that the goals Skinner were letting up, and the timing of the goals he was letting up, which is usually important in the playoffs.
I know what he's talking about.
Okay, good.
That I think that for sure that Skinner has not looked great in the series. Then they bail on him, and when they're down by 3 goals, bring in Campbell. They win the game. Campbell plays outstandingly well. It shows the confidence. The Oilers just settle in. Talk about being more relaxed around a goalie. They settle in around Campbell because
to me,
let me finish. Campbell hasn't been great this year all the time, but he still has the pedigree of being able to play in pressure games, pressure situations.
That's where you're detached from reality. He has choked away 2 playoff series in Toronto, so he does not have anything in this
entire show statistically saying that's not true, Mike. We've already got some analysis.
Yeah, though, Mike, coaches do not think the way you think with the passion, the passion and the anger and what he did 3 years ago. They're looking at what's happened in the last, 3 weeks, month.
And I think stretch Campbell played well. And Skinner has an .881 save percentage in these playoffs.
Right, but
Campbell had a .964 save percentage in a comeback win. That series was dead and over if they don't win that game, and they're going to go with Skinner. Makes no sense.
Yes, they're going to go with Skinner because Skinner is the better of the 2 goaltenders. He's
not the better of the 2, Mike.
Oh, my God! All right,
he has the better future. He's not the better of the 2 right this
He's
minute.
the better in the here and the now. And Dan, this is sort of similar to what was going on in Minnesota. It's like, okay, is Marc-Andre Fleury the better of the 2 goaltenders? Does he have the better resume? Of course he is. He's a Hall of Famer. But
but not for today. He doesn't.
Right. Now, I think that this is an indication of Woodcroft saying, okay, I have to use everything at my disposal in terms of who is the better goaltender. And right now, even though Skinner struggled in game 4, he's going back to Skinner because I don't think he thinks that Campbell can carry him to 2 more wins in this series. I really don't.
He struggled in games 1, 2, and 3 as well. Like Mike, there wasn't like
oh God,
he did. Did you see? They were out shooting.
I watched all that series. I watched
all these games. All these games have been close, and Edmonton's been out shooting them horrifically. And yet the LA Kings are still in it, and they're in it on like short side goals, and they're in it in like different kind of weird. They've scored lots of short side goals, lots of stuffer goals, lots of like kind of goals, where guys where Skinner's been leading off the post a little bit too much. All these, and he looks nervous and inexperienced in the playoffs. I think he's a great goalie in the future. But man, you've got a goalie who's in Campbell who has proven statistically to not be the problem with teams.
Skinner right now is ranked 13th of all the goalies in the playoffs. That's what he's ranked, 13th.
13th, right, of 16.
All I'm saying is if I'll be consistent. If I want my prediction, which was Kings in 7, to be true, then I would be in favor of Edmonton starting Jack Campbell. Skinner gives them the better chance to win. That's my belief. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe LA wins game 5, and if LA wins game 5,
back it up statistically or anything. You're just saying it.
No, it's what I believe, Russ. It's
Yeah. Well,
based on my observations of Jack Campbell in 2 years where he was the starting goaltender in Toronto, and when it came down to him having to make the big
What about
save
the
at the
games
right.
he played down the stretch? I pointed out he won like
Yes,
3 out of 4
How,
games.
how's it received in the room, though?
Yeah.
Well, he's a great guy. They love him, but
No, I'm talking about this decision. How's this decision being
I don't know.
received in the room?
Yeah.
Because Campbell came in there and slammed the door, and they made the comeback.
Yeah.
He gets the
And they
win.
got momentum off that, Dan. They could ride momentum off that.
yeah. Well,
Absolutely. So that's a big part of the decision as well.
Yeah,
I-
but if I'm sorry, go ahead, Kev.
well, I mean, I think your decision is based on your blood pressure readings for when Campbell was playing for Toronto. I thought, like Russ and Eklund, that because the series kind of turned back, that they would go with Campbell, and the fact that I knew Skinner, because I had just looked at the goalie statistics, had a rough time, and I went to the advanced stats and expected goals against and so forth, and it looked like everything showed that he was not having a good run. On the other hand, the NHL tradition is the coach's intuition, making decisions that can easily be second guessed. So this just kind of falls in. But I'm with Eck and Ross. I thought he was going to go with Campbell.
Now I'll say this: if LA goes into Edmonton and wins Game 5, then Campbell's the goalie for the rest of the series.
Yeah, but then you're putting yourself in a situation where you can't lose another game. It's you're putting yourself in then you're putting Campbell into a no-win situation at all,
Correct.
and you're putting the Oilers into a situation where
He's put
there's
himself.
another team. Well, the Oilers aren't the Maple Leafs, but there's another team that has a history of failing in the playoffs, except for last year. And the reality is here, they have been way better than LA in this series. But LA has found a way to stay in these games by scoring. And it's not just the statistic. It's not just the 800 save percentage. It's the timing of all the goals that he's given up. Like, you cannot give up goals at certain times. Like, Edmonton would score a goal to get momentum back, and then Skinner would let a bad goal in right after that. This is what was happening time and time again. It was incredibly frustrating to watch this team because obviously, I mean, the talent level on the Oilers is ridiculous. And the Kings are an up and coming team, but they shouldn't be on the ice with the Oilers right now.
Oh my God!
I mean, it's honest. It's the truth. I mean, the Oilers are probably the best team in the Western Conference. I mean, I'm just going over it. They are.
Talent-wise, they probably are. I mean, that's probably true.
They have the best two. They have the best two players.
Well, they're the best.
They're more than just those two players.
They're getting scoring.
They're
For the first time, they're getting scoring from all over the place. They're getting scoring from. They're getting the other players are jumping in. Nugent Hopkins is like ridiculous this year, right? Another 100-point year from him. 100-point year.
They're more than that than they have ever been. But I still think that, they're riding the wave of Draisaitl and McDavid. And when you have two of the best, you have two of the best players in the league, that you do that. But I still think there are holes on that team when you have Philip Broberg and Brett Kulak playing major minutes on your defense. I mean, there's just so many minutes that Ekholm and Donnell Nurse can play.
I'm going to say this. Skinner, at this point in his career, isn't a kind of like a rah-rah motivating guy. Campbell, when he went into that game and said, let's get her done, he never even considered for a moment that he was going into that game to just kind of sweep up a mess and they were going to just walk away losers.
I thought it was.
Hold on. That's why he deserves to start.
I thought he was a change of pace guy. I thought they were down 3-0 and they needed a spark. But if Yaroslav Halak came in Game 5 with the Rangers down 3-0 and they win Game 5 and they go back to Madison Square Garden, do you think there's a chance in hell that Halak is going to play?
That's a different story, though.
Dan, go ahead.
Yeah, that's a totally different story, man. Just I mean, hey. I heard it last year. He's the best goalie in the world. I heard it last year so much. He's the best goalie in the world. Well, the best goalie in the world didn't beat who was the best goalie in the world last year. But no, that's a totally different argument.
Malak and Shesterkin, bigger gap.
Yeah, a little bit.
Right? I mean, Campbell came in as the starter this year, and he lost the job, rightfully so. Yeah. And Skinner deserved every reason to be the starter in the first game of the playoffs. And the first, even give him 2 games, great, no problem. But after the third game, when he was like letting in goals at bad times and not still, and really like giving your team because the Oilers are a go-go team, and they're a team that they have to be a go-go team to win. They have their defensemen have to pinch, they have to do all this stuff. And when you let up bad goals and you have an 800 save percentage behind you, your defense is making that little bit of hesitation when you're trying to keep the puck in at the point that's stopping you from winning games. And it's like that's the reality of what's going on. And then the second Campbell came in, the Oilers never looked back. They were completely different. They were a completely different team, and this is a huge mistake in my opinion. Now we'll see what happens. The Oilers still might be good enough to win this series with Skinner in there for sure. They won what? They won one of 3 games with him in there already. But this is a huge risk that doesn't need to be taken, Kevin. I don't see the point of it.
No, I'm with you on that. I mean, I get Mike's argument only because Skinner was the best goalie during the regular season, but I just thought you laid it out perfectly. He deserved to be the number one. He deserved to get that start, but he hasn't played well, and the Oilers needed something to happen. They went to a guy, he made it happen, and now because as you said, the gap between Skinner and him is not as wide as say Halak and Shesterkin. Then you go to that, and then I thought he had earned the right to play again. So I thought he would do that. On the other hand, I do know how NHL coaching works, and guys go with their gut. So
breaking news: Makar has been suspended for 1 game.
Yeah.
So not as bad as some people were saying the possibility of 2. But yeah,
there's no history.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas, I don't think Bunting had ever been suspended either, Russ.
But he's a jerk. McCarr's not.
You just made my point. You just made my point. You just made my point.
But he's proven he's a jerk and gotten away with a lot.
And referees hate Bunting.
Yeah, just remember the famous Brian Burke story when somebody said to him, and because they all say this, I'm not that kind of player, and Burke's reached across the table and says, "But you are that kind of player." So
now, Russ,
that's fantastic. That's all the time we really have for today, folks.
Well,
go ahead, Mike. Can you have something else?
No. Russ wanted to bring up the ESPN.
Oh yeah, we can go into that. Sure.
Yeah. So looks like ESPN. Well, actually, I want to give credit, and I don't have it up. So hold on.
Jeremy Laura.
Yeah. So he did an article. So ESPN has already started doing cuts with their streaming. It looks like there was like a $1.5 billion loss on ESPN Plus as a whole. So, of course, the NHL is going to get blamed for that. And the NHL partners, as far as the people who do the NHL work, are probably eventually going to take the fall. They've already gotten rid of some people that probably names we wouldn't know. But they're sort of like now sitting in the weeds waiting until the end of the season. And then we're going to see what talent changes they're going to make. And they're going to make some because Disney is not standing for losing this kind of money. And so my question to the panel is, did they lose this kind of money because they have it on too many streaming networks and they're asking fans to pay too much extra over and above what they pay either for their cord cutting or their cable? And I think the answer is yes.
Well, as a
I'm with you.
Yeah, as a subscriber to ESPN Plus and paying, they boosted their annual fee from $69 to $99. I mean, I'd rather pay that and get all the other sports on top of the NHL that other than the NHL Center Ice package, which was like $150. Is as somebody who needs to watch games, it's a much better deal. And you were able to get broadcasts, of each NHL team. You had an option. I liked the service, but if they're taking $1.5 billion loss,
that's in Q1, so we don't know what else.
Right. So I mean, that I don't know how sustainable that is.
First quarter, it says. Yeah.
Wow.
That's
pretty crazy. I mean, you remember the NHL was a $2 billion industry at the lockout.
Yeah.
Well,
losses last year for Disney was $120 billion, so they're tired of losing money, man.
Well,
Disney's hurting.
It can't all be put on the NHL. But
we're going to Disney World, Russ.
No, I know. I will say this though, I don't think it's so much Disney's hurting as much as what their expectations were that what the NHL would do for the Plus package, and it hasn't done enough. But there is a plus side to the TV, and that is, and this is why I told Mike they're not going to change the playoffs. Rangers Devils averaged 1.6 million total viewers and peaked at 2.2 on ABC. That was the third most viewed Game 3 of a first round series since 2018. So again, you get that kind of matchup. That's a lot of potential people watching. I mean, I was watching from North Carolina. I helped boost their ratings. But the point is, so the model is right, but the problem is the NHL went to too many services now.
I think you're right. I think they have a branding problem, Russ. I think because like it used to be like you got Game Center and you knew what you were getting. You went to Game Center app, you saw the games there. You saw, you get and now it's like I can watch it on Hulu, I can watch it on Sling, I can watch it on the ESPN. But when you ESPN Plus, it's not a great app. At least the ones that I have, like it's not like an obvious app to where the hockey is even sometimes on the ESPN Plus app.
Yeah, they have a couple of shows. They got The Point. They got a couple of shows, but I think the problem is that everybody now admits whatever Game Center used to be, and I think Mike still does, like Center Ice or whatever. That's an afterthought. All of that is an afterthought now, and now it's like either Plus or Hulu or whatever. And I feel like Hulu is probably cutting into ESPN tremendously. That's what I think.
Yeah, but in order to get Hulu, I'm confused about that too. Like, why do I get hockey? I see this. I'm like, this is my job. I'm a cord cutter. Like,
I know, and it's confusing.
I don't know why I'm getting NHL on Hulu. Am I getting it because I pay for Hulu? Am I getting it because I pay for the ESPN Plus thing?
Yeah. I'm always confused of whether I have things because my kids bought them. I don't know who paid for them. They just show up on my TV.
I mean, for a cord cutter, the only game, like if you have ESPN Plus and you're a cord cutter, the only games that you can't get are the games that are on TNT or TBS because ESPN Plus will not cover that.
Oh no, there's another issue, Mike. When they go to these True TV thing, like the game's going long and they say the game's now on True TV.
Nobody gets on.
No, that's not on Hulu. So I'm like sitting there and I'm like, where the hell is that?
I had to look up. I had to look up on Spectrum to find out what channel True TV was.
I don't know what channel it is because mine changed too. There's that issue, and the other issue is there is not a Hockey Night in Canada blackout, but there is a Canadian blackout too that's happened a few times this year where they're getting the game and we don't get it here on one of the services. Because I remember it saying that, but I don't know which one. But that's the other thing too. There's still too many blackouts. I get weird blackouts.
Well, I had this happen the other night. I'm watching the Kings and Sharks in the regular season, and it's like this game is not available in your area. I'm like, why the hell is this game not available?
Right? Why not?
In Philadelphia.
Yeah. I tried to watch a game from South Carolina when I was visiting my daughter, and I got blacked out. Even though I was using for no reason, I was trying to watch. But
then I refreshed it, and the game came on perfectly fine.
Yeah, it's just I don't understand.
I want to provide before we go a little economics lesson about the reality of sports because Russ brought it up when he said it was 1.6, and that's a really good number for the NHL. But I just looked it up because I wanted to be sure of this. But just so everybody can see how far we have to go yet as a sport.
NBA.
Average NBA 6.8 million per NFL average 16.7 million.
Yeah.
So, our 1.6, even though that's really nice, we still got a long way to go.
Wow, so Kevin's the buzzkill instead of Mike. Good job, Kevin.
Yeah. Well, PBA bowling 880,000. So just about
they haven't passed.
Yeah. Well, there was a time when PBA was right par with us, but now
Russ, imitation is the most sincere form of flattery, and Kevin is imitating me.
I put you in the negative spot now, Kevin, over there. If you want to take anything.
On the right, Mike Agello.
All right.
Yeah.
There is no right Mike Agello. You figured that out already.
Well, there are games tonight. Obviously, we get to the Florida Boston series does not resume until tomorrow night, which is weird. I don't know if there's any benefit. I hate that personally. I just hate,
it could be building availability.
It's building related.
No, don't we always do this? We always go 3 games for Game 5, don't we? It seems like we do.
They put I know for the Toronto-Tampa series, Game 5 is on Thursday instead of Wednesday. We're going every other day.
And so we're taking this extra day in the middle of the series. Is that what's happening?
Well, no. The whole reason was because they wanted to line up Saturday for Hockey Night in Canada. So it's Thursday, Saturday, Monday, 5, 6, and 7.
Well, this is weird because we normally don't start on a Monday. Like that was what happened. I think the round starting on a Monday usually starts on a Wednesday.
Remember with the Kings series now, there's like a 3-game gap because both basketball teams have to play the playoffs there too.
Yeah.
In the final, we always go 3 for Game 5 to give people an extra day for the travel.
For traveling, yes.
So
Okay, yeah, I don't remember that being the case. I thought it was every other day.
nope.
Anyway, all right. Well, maybe I'm wrong, but anyway, it is interesting what the extra day does for a team that's down 3-1. We can get that tomorrow, but that's something that I think is fun. Not tomorrow. We won't be on tomorrow. I don't think. Right? We're going to do Thursday. We're going to be on tomorrow. Confused. We're going to be on tomorrow and not Thursday.
No tomorrow.
No tomorrow, or something like that. Anyway, we'll check.
Wait, you made it more confusing now, Ek.
I'm just following the lead of ESPN Plus. Okay, like this is. You don't know whether we're going to be on, if we're not going to be on, if we're going to be blacked out in your area, whatever it is. You'll just have to go to HockeyBuzz.com and look it up. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will be back at some point in the next 48 hours. For you to find out.